When Mr. Gaddafi came in 2009 in Italy for his first official visit, Berlusconi was suffering a terrible pain at the back, and Gaddafi desired to have him or Giorgio Napolitano to go at the airport for the first greetings. And Berlusconi had a terrible pain, and he was trying to avoid also to go there. But we know by WikiLeaks revelations that Gaddafi told to the Italian authorities, if no prime minister or president of the republic are here, I won't go in Rome. And by WikiLeaks reports, we know that Berlusconi took some cortisone and went to the airport. So it's not an easy relationship, but it's obviously the best one that Muammar al-Gaddafi have had with European prime ministers.
And as far as the companies that are involved here, are they, the Italian companies, are they tied to Libyan investment groups, or are some of them tied to the Gaddafi family's personal fortune?
Of international financial crisis in 2008 and the increase of the prices of oil in 2007 and 2006 made a particular effect, that Western countries needed cash flow, and Libya had a lot of it. And so now Libyan companies are stakeholders of some Italian companies, important and also strategic, as Finmeccanica, and that produces defense systems, and UniCredit, which is an important bank, and more than one. They are a lot. And now, obviously, everyone is asking who will be, if there will be, a next leader in Libya, and what will go on. But obviously, this kind of relationships, for example, about the energy supply, Italy buys in Libya more of 1/3 of the energy that the country needs, will be continuous in the future. I mean, there is a stop now. Eni, Italian company, suspended the flow of energy yesterday for the technical risks that there are with the clashes going on. But usually also when a regime changes, this connection, this energy connection survive. Maybe something can change in the prices, in the agreement, but there is a strong relationships. There are strong relationships between Italy and whole Arab countries that have an ancient origin.
There is, of course, the fear of what the Italian Interior Minister is calling a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. He's saying that up to 300,000 migrants could head to Europe's shores from Libya. How real is that fear?
At present, from Tunisia, when there was a change of government, we had, since the February the 7th, I think 6,000 people that came with boats in Lampedusa and Pantelleria, two small islands in the southern part of Italy. It's difficult to know how many people will arrive here. Obviously, there is the risk of a danger, and I think there is a huge risk of a danger, not just for Italy, but for Tunisia and for Egypt, if the migration goes east and west is not easier than if it goes to north, for countries that have political problems in this moment. Italy is asking to the European Union to share the burden of this wave of migration that is possible, and now discussions are going on about who have to pay for what and when.
Good to talk to you, Maurizio Caprara in Rome. Many thanks for your thoughts. Muammar Gaddafi's sons are an integral part of his power structure. Perhaps the most prominent is Saif al-Islam. Many in the West came to see him as a reforming influence, but his dramatic appearance on Libyan television on Sunday night defending his father shattered many illusions. Barnaby Phillips reports now from London.
He was the charming face of the Gaddafi regime, a man who loved art.
This kind of painting was the beginning of my journey with colors.
A man who wooed the world with talk of reform and the promise of access to Libya's wealth. So Saif al-Islam's rambling televised speech came as a shock to those foreign admirers. He said drug addicts, foreigners and Islamists were plotting against his father, who would fight to the last bullet. This is the London School of Economics, the LSE. Saif studied here, his charity has given it money. But academics who knew and liked him are now appalled by his speech in support of a brutal regime.
Here was a man, I think, under huge stress and personal circumstances, now torn apart by this tension between, on the one hand, loyalty to his father and family, and on the other hand, the reform of his country. This was almost a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions being played out in front of us. And when he came to make his final judgment, he made the wrong one.
This is the library at LSE, and inside we managed to find a copy of Saif al-Islam's doctoral dissertation, which he submitted in 2008, more than 400 pages long. It's entitled "The Role of Civil Society in the Democratization of Global Governance Institutions." Let me just show you a highlight or two. He talks about the problems of citizens who live in undemocratic states where governments are authoritarian, abusive, and unrepresentative of their people's real interests. This man has tracked Saif's financial dealings, in particular his role in setting up a fund called the Libyan Investment Authority.
It's now worth about $150 billion, and vast numbers of financial institutions from London and around the world have been trooping to its doors, trying to get a piece of that action. And one of the ways in which they have been doing that is trying to make contact with Saif al-Islam or his friends, because they believe that he is one of the gatekeepers for that fund.
At the LSE, the students are upset about the ties between their university and the son of a dictator. But there are many others now wondering if it was such a good idea to do business with Saif al-Islam.
Barnaby Phillips reporting for us there. Thousands of expatriate workers are fleeing Libya as that country's economy comes to a standstill amid the unrest. Now, Turkey often sees itself as a bridge between East and West. In the past decade, Ankara has struck deals worth billions of dollars in the oil and construction industry across the Middle East and North Africa. It has more than 20,000 citizens working in Libya, and as with other nations, it is struggling to get its workers out. Anita McNaught has more now from Istanbul.
Exhausted, relieved and safely on their way home aboard a Turkish ferry, some of the 3,000 Turks who'd taken refuge for days at a sports stadium in Benghazi. More than 25,000 Turks are working in Libya. So far, only 6,000 have got out, many with harrowing tales.
Soldiers came from Africa and they clashed with people right away. Many died. Thank God, no Turkish nationals were hurt, but our construction sites were looted.
But Turks have become casualties, the foreign minister confirming one Turk died and acknowledging reports of scuffles. Relations with Libya have never been exactly smooth, but Turkey's $15 billion worth of investments in the country, mostly in construction projects, have kept up a cordial front and muzzled Turkey's outspoken prime minister, who up till now has said little more to Muammar Gaddafi than listen to the voice of your people.
For every country, it's a difficult balancing act to balance your interests and values.
But Prime Minister Erdogan was criticised, even mocked in Turkey, for accepting the Gaddafi Prize for Human Rights in November last year. It came with $250,000 US. Many are now asking when he's going to give it back.
Erdogan's acceptance of the Gaddafi Human Rights Prize was not the proper thing to do. But on the other hand, I think it is only natural that Turkey tries to, get as much economic interest as possible out of Libya.
What's clear is that while there are still at least 20,000 Turks in Libya, whatever the Turkish government really thinks, it's not saying in public until all its people are out of danger. Turkey is one of several countries the Gaddafi regime has accused of being behind the uprising in Libya. Information coming from Turks trapped on the ground tells a rather different story of ordinary Libyans protecting Turkish workers and their families from the violence raging around them.
All this unrest in the Middle East started in Tunisia. Since Zine El Abidine Ben Ali was ousted as president in mid-January, oil prices have broken the $100 a barrel mark and are set to keep rising. The biggest fear is that unrest could spread to the world's biggest exporter of oil. Saudi King Abdullah has promised financial aid worth $36 billion to avert any kind of popular unrest. Public employees will get a 15% pay rise, debtors will get relief, and there is also help for students and the unemployed. King Abdullah made the announcement as he returned home after spending 3 months abroad for medical treatment. The new funds will also help struggling Saudis buy homes, get married and start businesses. Well, the revolt in Saudi Arabia could spark an oil price shock with prices of more than $150 a barrel. In fact, investment bank Nomura Holdings believes if political unrest halts exports from Libya and Algeria, oil prices could hit $220 a barrel, and that would reduce OPEC's spare capacity to about 2 million barrels. And that's important because that would be a similar level seen during the Gulf War when prices hit a record $147 a barrel in 2008. Since the departure of Tunisia's president in January, prices have risen by almost $15. Well, the real fear is that this could spark inflationary pressures, possibly causing a double-dip recession. Well, joining me now to talk more about this from London is Neil Atkinson. He's the Energy Director at Business Analyst Data Monitor. Neil, thanks for being with us. Now, if I could start with this prediction from Nomura Holdings, could things really hit $220 a barrel?
Well, I think that's a fantasy figure which almost belongs in the realms of guesswork. You're right to cite 2008 as a parallel to the situation we have today. If, of course, all of Libyan production were to be shut down, and it looks to be only a matter of time before it actually is, and if all of Algerian production were to be shut down, which is a rather more speculative judgment, that takes out about 4 million barrels a day or so. We are in a different position in 2011 than we were in 2008. Back in 2008, when there were difficulties over production or rumours of difficulties over production, there was very, very little spare production capacity anywhere in the world. Today, in 2011, we have spare production capacity in Saudi Arabia, we have spare production capacity elsewhere in OPEC, and crucially, we have hundreds of millions of